For a charming way to dress up your garden or patio. Today's the day we're going to do a DIY rustic water pump planter. It is great, it's fun to build, it's made with cedar pickets, 2x4s, and a little bit more and some creativity. Now let's get started. Hi there, I'm Dusty and welcome to my channel. Today we're using design from Avery Design Studio. If you haven't checked out their channel, go do it. I'll link them below and they have templates that help you get started. Now let's jump into it. For this project, I used 3 Cedar Fence Pickets, 2 2x4s, 1x8 board, 1 3/8" wood dowel, rope, wood glue, 3" wood screws, 1 3/8" wood screws, wood stain, and sealant. For tools, I use a tape measure, pencil, miter saw, bandsaw, and CNC, but you could use just a bandsaw or jigsaw, table saw, pin nailer, or brad nailer, drills and bits, clamps, router, sander, paintbrush, or rag for stain. I started with the cedar pickets, cutting them to form the base of the planter, 3 pieces in total. 2 of the pieces will be 18 inches long, and 1 will be 16.5 inches long, and it will also be cut to 1 1/4 inches wide. I also sanded them down a little bit because they were a little rough on top. I planed most of the 2x4s to 1 1/4 to give it a little bit less 2x4 look and a little bit more decorative and beautiful look to it. I also did some of the cedar just to get off the rough edges. Next, I cut 2x4s for legs, 2 of them at 12.5 inches long. Then I went ahead and sanded the legs. It will make it a lot easier in the process of assembling. Let's assemble the base of the planter box. I use wood glue and screws to join the 18-inch front and back panels to the 12.5 legs with the 2x4s. It will form a simple rectangle. The 16.5 inches long piece is in the middle. It's the 1 1/4 inch wide piece, and it will be 1.5 inches from the top on one side of it for the support. Pro tip, always pre-drill to prevent splitting. I then printed out the template that Avery Design Studio has, and I put them to full scale so I can get the measurements of what I needed to transfer over to the CNC. For the handle, it's 16 7/8. The faucet is 10 3/4, and the pump handle holder is 6 3/8. Here I am taking the templates and putting them to scale on the CNC and getting that ready to move and groove. For the next few minutes, I watched the CNC cut out the parts that I needed that have all the curves and the grooves and stuff. Next, I took those pieces over to the router to soften all the edges. I cut the support post to 21 inches long. And then the decorative sides, I took the support post, put it in and measured from the top It was 20.5 inches long. What I'm doing here is I took the top of the faucet and I used that to make the decorative design on one side of the boards. Then I took the template that I just traced out and I cut them out on the bandsaw. I taped them together and sanded them so they'd be even. Then of course I took out the router and I routed the edges so they were nice and soft. Now to cutting the parts for the planter. I cut 8 of the 4 7/8 inch at a 22.5 degree angle. See how I turned it on the side and flip and cut and flip and cut and flip and cut until I get you pieces. Once they're all cut, I will put them all in a line and tape the backs of them with the angles face down. Had a little trouble getting it to be in my little spot that I had, but that's okay. Now that I have them all taped, I will flip it over and put glue in between and glue it together. For add a measure, I take my pin nailer and pin them in to line them a lot better while the glue dries. Well, of course, I'll keep it in there too. To attach the support post that you see in here, I have a 3-inch screw that is screwed out from underneath and it's also glued in the bottom. Then I glue the sides on. Here I'm applying glue, of course. I'll be touching it with a 1 3/8 inch screw, from one on the bottom and one on the top for extra security on both sides. I missed footage of this, but I cut a 6-inch circle out of a 1x8. The circle will be placed on top of the decorative sides. I'm finding the center right now, and I don't know. Oh, there's my pencil. Now we're back in business. Find the center, I'll glue and screw it. I believe my phone died, so I missed footage of putting on the faucet. I just put the faucet in the first groove of the decorative side and I screwed it from the back side with 3-inch screws. And I also glued it, of course. Don't forget the glue. And now I'm putting on the pump handle holders. I'm measuring, trying to figure out where I want it, and then I'll glue and pin it down, and then I'll come in from the bottom and I'll screw up some screws on both sides to make it more secure. Taking the pump handle, I will take a clamp and clamp it where I want it to be so I can see where to put the dowel, to screw and put the dowel. And I dropped it a few times. This is where you'll mark where you want where the dowel will be. You mark it down there, and then you are going to take your 3/8 inch drill bit and you're going to drill down a 1/2 inch, and then on the circle, and then underneath where you see where the dowel is going to be, but in the middle of that, so a 1/2 inch. And so you're cutting the dowel 1 inch longer than the space between those two. Just sanding off a little bit of the edges so it's not so rough and easier to put into the holes. Just for good measure, I'm double checking with the dowel once it's into the handle and making sure that's where the hole is going to be for the circle. Once that is in place where the dowel is set, I then take and drill and screw the handle on using 1 3/8 inch screws. I glued up a panel of cedar pickets to make the width big enough, and now I'm going to trace the inside of the octagon and then cut it out. You can either use the bandsaw or the miter saw. They both work, and they came out to about 45-degree angles. Now you'll take the base and put it into the hexagon, sometimes finding I should have marked it, but I went round and round until I finally figured out where it went. I should have marked it. Pro tip, mark it so you know where it starts, because the angles are not exactly lined up, but you'll glue it and then nail it in so it's secure. Now to put on the side pieces for the planter. I drilled a 3/8 inch hole about 1 inch down in the center of the 2-inch wide piece. This is where the rope will connect and loop over the faucet onto the other side and loop out. Now you're going to place the planter on and screw. I screwed 4 screws to make sure it was secured, and oh, guess what? I glued it. Now moving on to stain, because everything is done, everything is sanded and ready to go. You can pick whatever stain you want. You can use an outdoor one. I just used what I had on hand. I had Provincial, I don't know how to say it, and it turned out pretty good. And here's the finished product. It was still drying at this time, but here's some more shots. I just picked up some flowers from Walmart and put them inside to give it a more finished look and for its destination. If you like this tutorial, please support my channel by subscribing, liking, sharing, and all the above. Until next time.